All good children know to hide when they hear the signs of the knocking ghost. A rapping outside your hovel, a laugh like dried leaves blowing over ground, the shadow of a familiar face disappearing around a corner. All bad children that dare go outside when it comes around will be snapped up, never to be seen again. Once there were two boys. They argued about everything. As the boys grew into men, their enmity bloomed into rivalry. With each hard-earned battle scar, they sought to outdo each other. One day, one of the boys did not return from a hunt. The remaining boy felt no victory over his rival, only the loss of a friend. Unable to find him in the world, he refused to leave his bed, hoping to see him in his dreams. Time passed until one day he felt a strange vibration. Then, he heard the familiar voice of his lost friend just outside his hovel. He rushed outside, only to see the decaying body of his friend swaying awkwardly in the air. Horrified, he heard a dry rasping that could only be a laugh. For a moment, the monster was revealed before it vanished into the dark, whisking the corpse puppet away. The settlement stood in awe at the death of their first survivor, Chub Riverbong. What do they do? This has not happened yet. A somber air drifted throughout the camp as the elder Fartle Armpit contemplated with the first settlement survivors. It was time to set a principle. Going forward, this would be the action they take with their fallen. In the end, they decided, desperate times call for desperate measures. And why waste good supplies? Cannibalism seemed to be the best and worst decision they could decide on. Charlie Danger vowed to seek revenge over the death of his rival, Chub. He deemed there to be no time to waste, and he selected the best of the best to accompany him on his hunt to find Chub's murderer, a monster talked about in children's fairy tales. He selected Ginger Wood, Creamy Coconut, and then decided Max Power should be his fourth. The hunters stood at the mouth of what appeared to be a vast network of caves. Venturing inside, they felt bad vibrations. A strange metallic sound reverberated throughout these webbed walls. Suddenly, the ground felt weak, and the webs beneath them gave way. They tumbled down and down, but luckily landed softly into what appeared to be an underground crystal lake. As they ventured deeper, Charlie saw his reflection in the crystals. It whispered to him inside his mind. The whispers were incomprehensible, but they made Charlie question his motives, becoming indecisive. As he snapped back to, he noticed a strange man in a large cloak with two chins and two grinning mouths standing nearby. This man introduced himself as the Gambler, and said if they wished to meet their quarry, they must play his dice game. Seeing no other option, they play the Gambler's game of deadly dice. Charlie goes first, but right as he is about to roll, there is a hesitation, and his dice lands on a 1. Charlie goes cold as the Gambler takes him into his cloak. One last look before he is devoured by the fearsome fiend, leaving behind only raw meat for the remaining survivors to scramble together. Creamy goes next, but she stands firm and rolls a 10, making her feel even luckier. Ginger and Max both roll 6s, and the gambler then seems satisfied, disappearing before revealing a giant cavern of webbing and their quarry. The monster loomed over them. Its birthling skittered and crawled around this massive spider's nest. This was the Spidicules, the face of a man, the body of an arachnid, and the lure of an angler fish. It uses the corpse of Chube Riverbong as not only a trap, but as a commanding beacon for its young to attack. Filled with fury, Ginger rushes in and attacks as Max finds his bone club cumbersome and Creamy finds a vantage point. The beast proves elusive, employing hit-and-run tactics as it commands its young to swarm. After fending off the spiderlings, Max makes it into the fray, hacking the Spider King's legs off with a frantic bashing. Creamy lands a few good hits with the catgut bow before Spidicules flings one of its young at her. Ginger becomes a tornado of rage as she hacks and slashes through the baby spiders to cut off another leg, until finally Creamy manages to strike the final blow. After the fight, it is then that Creamy and Ginger notice Max had been taken. A desperate search reveals no leads, and with sorrow in their heart, the two fierce women return back to the settlement, giant spider carcass and new web material in tow. The settlement had suffered a blow morally. 3 of their men are now either missing or dead, 2 of which were founding fathers of Schmuckies. They refined the webbing into silk due to a new innovation after seeing this webbed material. But it was then that Fartle decided the settlement needed a morale boost, and declared a triathlon of death. The settlement picked its most influential members, Ginger, Wembley Christensen MD, and Creamy. The final contestant was none other than Fartle Armpit, the town elder herself, figuring not only had she been out of the action for too long, but also that the elder participating would boost morale. That is when she noticed the first competition was a race. Her back still broken from the first White Lion meant she wasn't going to excel here. Ginger pulled through in first, followed by Creamy, then Wembley, as Fartle stumbled in last, tearing her Achilles tendon on top of her already broken back. Next up was the debate. Fartle debated the merits of using skulls as helmets. Wembley discussed the risk-reward factors in investigating a lion den. Ginger just talked about how much she loved to kill things, and Creamy tried to petition for a vomit pool to be built in the town square. In the end, Fartle won because her suggestion was the most useful to the settlement, whereas Creamy came in last because no one likes vomit except her. She was apathetic to this contest. Finally, last up was the fighting tournament. Fartle managed to defeat Wembley with ease, while Ginger went too hard on Creamy, ripping her arm off in what should have been a friendly competitive matchup. Ginger, feeling a little bad about the dismemberment, resigned to allow Fartle the win. There was much rejoicing after the triathlon. It seemed spirits had been regained. However, that would not last, for in the darkness, something approached the settlement.